In The Devil's Music Part 1, Why God Doesn't Love Rock and Roll, I discussed why certain religious fundamentalists, such as the ministry Dial the Truth, are opposed to rock music in general. In this video I'm going to focus specifically on Christian rock music and Christian contemporary music in general. Before I begin, I should make clear I don't personally think Christian rock music is bad simply because it is Christian. If a band have good riffs, good hooks and good melodies and so on, then they are a good band, and the fact that they are Christian doesn't really change that. Not being a Christian doesn't mean I can't enjoy Christian rock music, any more than not being a Rastafarian means I can't enjoy listening to Bob Marley or Tut Tibbet. With that established, let's begin. In the last video I couldn't resist using a stock image of Christian evangelist Jimmy Swaggart crying. If you don't know what he is blubbering about here, he is confessing after being caught with a prostitute, for the first but not last time. Swaggart is noted for his opposition to rock music and is also the cousin of rock and roll singer Jerry Lee Lewis. Lewis, like his cousin, was raised a fundamentalist Christian and was expelled from the Southwest Bible Institute for playing a boogie-woogie version of My God Is Real in a church assembly. He has commented, "The same music that they kicked me out of school for is the same kind of music they play in their churches today. The difference is I know I am playing for the devil and they don't." What's important to note here is that Lewis isn't an atheist. He still believes in the God of fundamentalist Christianity, and as such also believes in hell, where he believes playing rock and roll music will send him. What we can gather from this is that Christian rock music is a fairly recent phenomenon. Much as the Christian church once considered science to be of the devil, but now accept it, many a church now accepts rock music, which was once considered of the devil. God didn't give rock and roll to you, man gave rock and roll to you. Looking at what Dial the Truth Ministries have to say on the subject of Christian contemporary music, which requires sifting through many an essay padded out with much evangelizing, a summary of why they don't like Christian rock is that it is still the devil's music, but pretending to be Christian, i.e. a wolf in sheep's clothing. Even if the lyrics are praising God, the music is still of the flesh rather than the spirit, and still features drumming, which they consider to be pagan. They also consider rock music to be the old song in your heart before you get saved, not the new song, which should be in your heart once you are saved. Christian rock is also influenced either directly or indirectly by secular worldly rock music, and as the Bible says, a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Another point Dial the Truth make is that a lot of Christian rock bands don't actually mention Jesus or God very often in their songs, quite likely so as to make their music more palatable to the secular mainstream. Funnily enough, I can't help but agree with Dial the Truth on these points. Christian rock music seems to me to be an attempt to take something secular and claim it for their own. Plagiarism in Christianity isn't really anything new. Much of the Bible is plagiarized from earlier religious texts. For example, Noah's Ark borrows heavily from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Much of the biblical account of Jesus is remarkably similar to the Egyptian figure Horus. Also, modern holidays such as Christmas and Easter have predominantly pagan origins. This criticism of Christian rock applies equally to Christian MMA, Christian softball, or anything else that would otherwise be secular, but for the word Christian being put in front of it. Fans of Christian rock might claim that God gave us rock and roll. If he did, he chose a method of giving it to us which is indistinguishable from it being man-made. I would actually take Dial the Truth's bad tree cannot bear good fruit argument a bit further by taking us back to the 18th century, when Johann Sebastian Bach changed the temperament of Western music. To explain in detail what this entailed would make this video a lot longer than I'd like it to be, so I shall simply put it in layman's terms and say Bach changed the way music is tuned. As a result, all modern Western music is tuned differently to music of the pre-Bach era. Therefore, all modern Western musicians, whether they know it or not, are influenced by Bach. Now, Bach did write a number of Christian cantatas, but he also wrote a number of secular cantatas. He was also fond of drink and even spent some time in jail. Therefore, if we take the bad tree cannot bear good fruit principle to its logical extreme, then all post-Bach Western music is sullied by Bach's worldliness, which would include not only Christian rock music, but also the traditional hymns which Christian fundamentalists, including the good folks at Dial the Truth, are so keen to tell you is superior to Christian rock. This was originally going to be a two-part series, but there's still a lot I need to cover, which will require a third video. The Devil's Music Part 3, Make God's House a House of Merchandise.